time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnett Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Good moment. Freeman Michaels here on Cutting Edge Consciousness with my co-host
Barnett Bain. Good moment indeed. Lots of excitement here at KVTA. Lots of excitement.
We got new chairs.
Brand new chairs. And we got new hula pencil kits.
We got a hula pencil holder.
I hope this is not instead of a bonus. So
this year, instead of a bonus, you get a hula pencil holder.
Which we share that.
That's right. One of us doesn't even get to take it home.
How dignified is that?
That's so beautiful.
Speaking of dignified.
Yeah.
So much civility and dignity and courtliness and honor and healthy discourse happening in the land.
Oh, that's funny. No, he's, not so much.
Not so much.
Not so much dignity.
Not so much. So
not so much healthy discourse.
So fascinating to me, the almost total breakdown.
Oh, it's a street fight.
It's a break. It's such a crisis of dignity.
It is a crisis of dignity. Absolutely.
There has been lost to our ability to relate to each other. We have lost models of any sort of civility. We've lost models of what it even looks like to entertain another's point of view, or to engage. We talk about the debate. But they've lost all tether to any sense of engaging with humility in a debate, absent of having a preset intention.
Totally.
So there is no exploration anymore. There isn't any room for something to emerge in the space between, because everybody is so rigidly adhering to their preset points of view, and it is strangling what is juicy and wild and spontaneous out of any creative possibility.
Yeah, there's two possibilities: in and out, right and wrong, good and bad. And when we're holding things that tightly, life gets very brittle, and if I'm really simple, it's just no fun. I mean, that's the truth, is that if I'm really holding it, there's only one outcome that's okay. And with an infinite number of possible outcomes.
This I believe is what is referred to by this term righteous. Although the idea of righteousness has been co-opted. It's been co-opted by those who think that their way is the way, it's been made an egoic term.
Oh, big time.
And not an indicator of some greater capacity of humanness and the ability to stretch and to grow and to live in the discomfort of allowing somebody else to stretch you and to grow you.
Except
to elevate you.
Except to say this is, in my mind, clearly part of the growth, because the imbalance, to have it glaring, this sort of orientation towards my way, towards right, towards my position, without, the perspective of any kind of complexity, any possibility that there's something beyond my personal worldview that I'm promoting and my constituency that are right, it's our way, we're right. That it's being amplified, that it's glaring, in my mind, is, there's a little part of me that's going, yes, just because it seems necessary. I don't know if you share that with me, but again, it's like I could get really hopeless around, like, oh, really? We're going to do this again? But my sense that it's almost like it needs to get, I don't know if you share this, but it hits a point where it's just so clear that that's not going to be the way forward.
Well, yes, I think that you're absolutely right. I do believe very deeply that it is developmental, and that it's an expression of a certain kind of adolescent behavior, which
Yes.
is fine in adolescence.
Right.
But as a culture,
Yeah.
I realize we are still in adolescence. Adolescents, they really are about absolutes and guarantees.
Yeah.
You know, if I can't go to that party, no one will like me. Or can you believe the shoes that she's wearing? Or is it you're really going to drive that piece of...
Right,
So
right.
the nature, the lenses through which adolescents relate to each other and to life is for one of simplifying an immeasurable array of possibilities, shoehorning it down into a bandwidth that they can handle.
Yeah.
And that is one of absolutes and certainties and guarantees and insurances. There are no insurances in life. There is no way we are going to outthink or out-strategize life or mystery, but an adolescent does not know that.
Right.
A culture, in order to thrive and to flourish, I think has to mature to a place where we are willing to move beyond adolescence. And, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on whether you're an optimist or a pessimist, I am an optimist, we are at a place, as you say, where this is glaringly the case. And it's not lost on me that the keystone issue around this is, in this country, and right now in this debate, is the health insurance matter.
Right, of course.
You know, it is about the guarantees of guarantees.
So, I would even elevate this to a kind of spiritual maturation process. And to that end, we, I think, have a guest who...
I hope we do.
we have a guest. You know, there's been a few weeks recently where that's not been a first.
I know.
Thing.
We sort of flip over to our guest and the chair's empty.
The chair's empty.
But because there are no guarantees.
That's right. And every once in a while that happens to us.
But we're certainly willing
That's
for
right,
there
we're
to
willing.
be a guest at the other end of this line. And I'm really hopeful and willing that it's going to be our old friend Mark Nepo, who, Mark, for those of our listeners who were not with us last time, Mark is a poet and a philosopher, the author of 14
beautiful books.
Beautiful books.
Absolutely beautiful.
Which is more books than you are the author of. But
that's true.
Not to compare
not
or
to
anything.
compare or compete.
But if you want to have a decent library in your office, you're going to have to spend more time at the computer. Some of those books, beautiful, but some of those, including Reduced to Joy, as well as 7,000 Ways to Listen. He's with us here today on Cutting Edge Consciousness. This would make 7,001 Ways to Listen. Well,
welcome, Mark.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you today.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. I was actually absent last time, so I'm grateful to be in this dialogue. And
you were Mark Truant.
I was Truant. The glaring indignity of the whole political process right now. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I was listening to you both and, really resonate with what you're both saying. And, I hold it also in this way that I think we're living in an age globally where we have rampant fundamentalism, not just abroad, but here. And for me, what that means, and you were alluding to it, is that, out of fear, we welcome nothing unless it mirrors us.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And, and one of the things that I take away from my long years ago cancer journey is that when we get that fearful, we become self-replicating creatures. And that's what cancer is. Cancer is a part that will self-replicate until it even destroys the host that it's living off of.
Yeah, and I love the part of that metaphor that a cancer is a cell, a necessary cell, just gone wrong, just gone off. And that's because, again, the beauty of having the debate, so many places in the world don't have the debate, and that we don't cherish that there's this incredible opportunity to share ideas and to collaborate and to come together and to differ, because that's a critical part of it. But the differing has gotten so brittle that it is cancerous in my mind.
Well, we go all the way back to Plato, who said we were we're all born whole, WHOLE, but we need each other to be complete. And so all of the conversation, it makes a difference if you feel you need all that you are not to become whole, or if you're just constantly, pushing away or even being violent with everything that is not like you.
My mother took away my Play-Doh. I used to eat it. Of course, I think that what you say is it stirs me so deeply, and maybe the reason that I have that it has such impact on me is because for me personally, it begins as a internal, individual process. It's very comfortable and familiar for me to look outside of myself and to want to get all indignant and to have this to say or that to say about what is going on out there and what people are doing and what they're doing, what's happening in the Congress and this and that. At the same time, I am keenly aware of it as a mirror for my own obstinacy and my own habituated patterns of precisely the kind of love affair with absolutes and guarantees that keep me safe or keep me in the pretend that I am safe. And this fundamentalism that you refer to is, when made personal, is my own tendency to revert to the past for in search of solutions that can't possibly meet the challenges of the moment. I can't possibly meet the challenges of the mysteries of the unknown.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I really feel like the the problems we face globally and even personally, we need it's more. It takes more than one point of view to offer any kind of solution or contribution. And this is why, we look at, elder circles in the Native American tradition. They meet in a circle so that everyone has their own view of the center. And that's not just because to be fair to everyone. It's because no one person can comprehend the center unless we have everybody's view of it. And so imagine if that basic understanding was underneath what was going on in Washington. All the energy would be in gathering everyone's opinion and finding what kind of whole it creates, rather than this pointless bickering over, he said, she said.
Yeah.
Well, that's so true. But, when it's a very, very delicate balance, because when I hold that point of view too tightly, it disempowers me because I'm not connected with my own impact and responsibility, my own ability to act and have influence on the whole process. When I own that disconnect as a personal process, as a personal, what some have referred to as a shadow process. I mean, I don't tend to use that language, but it's simply the holodeck of what's going on inside of me personally, and I begin to make peace with those elements myself. It somehow very magically seems to have impact on the world at large. I don't want to overstate this, but there is a relationship between what goes on deeply in the personal and how it is, and the impact that it has on the collective.
And I would just add to that the flitting back and forth. So it's so beautiful to be able to say, how do I personally relate to this, right? And respond to it. That it's about me. It is about me. It's about me in the way that I hold it and frame it and respond to it. And then the concept of the us, the circle that I'm part of. And so I don't know. I mean, it's one of these things where I think it's a flitting back and forth, because we talk on this show all the time that, can you hold both? And I know, Mark, from the last time you were here, it's a big part of the conversation is the maturity, the spiritual maturity, to be able to handle the paradox of these things.
Yeah, I mean, we and as you raised, paradox. I mean, I think it's so interesting. And in the desert, the Christian mystic desert fathers in the 3rd century had this beautiful image that holds the paradox of our uniqueness and our commonness. And very quickly, it's a wagon wheel. You have a hub, you have spokes, and you have a rim. And what they offered was that each spoke is the soul. And as you go out into your becoming in the world, you find your uniqueness and you hold up your part of the rim, which is community. But every one of us, when we go in to the center, we find each other in the same hub, and that hub is what they called God. And what's beautiful about that image is you take any one of those parts out, you don't have a wheel. It doesn't work.
I love it. So we're going to take a quick break. When we get back,
we're going to sell some cars
with hubs and wheels.
Speaking of wheels.
When I come back, here's where I want to go with this. I like where you were going, Barnett, that we personalize it. Because I don't know. For me, sometimes we get caught in theory, and I do all the time.
That's why we have poets.
Yeah. But I want to drill down to some places where this is showing up in very real terms right now in my life and in your life and in Mark's life and so forth.
After these fine words from our
We'll do that after we get back. Stay with us here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Barnett. I'm here with Freeman and our good friend Mark Nepo, poet, philosopher, friend. So, Mark, we've been talking a bit about this liminal place. It's not the separated self place, and it's not quite the sense of ourselves as the whole community, but it's the both and this, it seems to me, is the work of this is the field that our poets go out and till and tend to and hoe every day. And you've been an explorer and working in that field for a very long time.
Well, yeah, I have. It's 62, and I've been doing this for 40 years, and I feel like I'm, that old thing. The more you go, the less you know, and I feel like I'm just on the verge of learning even more. But I think that one of the things is that I keep relearning that great love and great suffering make us feel and understand that we all come from the same nameless heart. One way or the other, whatever we think is in the way becomes the way, and we discover we are each other over and over again. And if there's anything to refer back to our earlier conversation, if there's anything that is preventing people from politically finding common ground, it's that they haven't suffered enough.
Yeah.
Quite honestly.
Yeah.
And not that I wish suffering on it. They don't have to wish it. It's the friction of the universe, and I don't mean that as a downcast, dark view. It's more like spiritual physics, that we are all broken open, especially when we won't willfully open.
Yeah. This is where the vulnerability is so necessary, and that ego space, which this feels like it's total ego trip. It something like a 9/11, I know you guys talked about that last time, or an earthquake, or something that rocks us, and we go, oh, right, we need each other. Oh, right, you're me. It's this, because right now the illusion of separation is so, again, it's so glaring. We've turned up the volume on the insanity of that mindset, so much so that it's almost like something has to break for us to remember who we really are and have that vulnerability that is so sweet, right? Even though we resist what often sparks the vulnerability, because it's often some kind of breakdown in our world as we hold it, in order to get that. But this is the territory we're in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It brings to mind, I was out your way years ago, my first trip on the West Coast down US 1, and I was in Monterey, and a beautiful, you guys know that coast very well.
Oh, yeah.
And there, you know, one of those little rock islands about a half-mile offshore, and it was rough seas. And on this rock were, oh my God, there must have been 6, 7, 8 different kinds of wildlife, from cormorants to sea lions to pelicans, and the place was covered, and they were all exhausted and sleeping on each other. They ordinarily would be territorial. And this was the teaching of that moment. But they were exhausted of their differences. And there was room enough for everybody.
So I think you're pointing to something, to a truth that is definitely emerging for me, that in great beauty and in great pain, they are polarities of an expression of some timelessness, something beyond time, something more real.
Well, I think something that is, you know, that is, I would say even, it is more real. It's fundamental. It's the bottom. You know, we spend so much time trying to transcend out of here. I think the wisdom of experience is it forces us to transcend down into the ground of things.
Into the matter of it, into the substance of it.
Into the matter of it, yeah.
Well, this is the place from which compassion is born, not as an idea, but as a active caring that is discovered from personal suffering. I can, out of my own history of suffering, I can begin to have empathy for somebody else's.
Oh, I think, you know, definitely the thing, whatever we go through, for me, my cancer journey years ago, I can't ever encounter anyone in a life-threatening situation, and it's not an idea or a thought. You know, my heart is engaged beyond any thinking or willfulness or resistance.
Yeah. And there's a great, we've said a couple times in this show that you can't think your way out of your present pattern of thinking. It is this kind of, you know, we rely on that so much, at least I do. And then these moments where I'm rocked or shook into dropping into something that ultimately is more reliable. My heart space, my gut, you know, a way of conceiving and perceiving of my life that is in the world around me that can handle the complexity of it. My head can't.
Without resorting to absolutes and guarantees.
That's right.
And black and white. And
no, my head likes to do that. I mean, it's a head trip to try to say I can figure it out, you know, and I get all kinds of cool things figured out until I go, wait a minute.
Well,
I
you know,
I don't know.
I know for me, and I think it's archetypal, but I think we always have this conversation going on between our deeper soul, spirit, Atman, whatever you want to call the nature that's in us, and the part in us that is the surface creature that's making it through the land of circumstance. And, you know, so I'm always looking on the surface to be a problem solver, a time manager, a risk manager, which you have to do in the surface world. But to thrive, we have to enhance risk. And that part of me is always saying, I don't know, I'm not so sure that what you see as a problem is a problem.
We make friends of uncertainty, friends of beautiful chaos, or I guess if we don't make friends of beautiful chaos, it can go ugly pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, and that plays in too. I mean, we allow for the fact that, wow, this can get really dark, you know, and without trying to kill that part of the experience. Again, you know, I see the sort of the turning up the volume of the insanity as a kind of necessary part of the process, so we can really see how far do we want to go with this. You know, again, just to personalize, sometimes my wife and I have a recurring fight. It's just one of the lists. There's probably a half dozen that we do and have done since the beginning of our relationship. And every once in a while, we'll drop back into it. Unbeknownst to us, it gets triggered and we get going. And
so you go like, are we going to really have a 4 today?
This is it.
Are we going to do a 2?
The part of my brain.
4?
So let's just talk about this, because there's a part of me the whole time going, wow, how far are we going to go with this? Knowing where it comes from, knowing it intimately. And there's this element of needing to go through it again just to know that I don't want to repeat that. I don't know if this pertains exactly, but again, just to have a personal experience of it, that I don't want to kill that part of our experience. It actually has a place in, let's call it the democratic process of my marriage.
To be held, to be loved. But
right.
Remember,
well, and it's not loving though when we're in it. It's like, we're doing this, right?
Well, the more you're aware of it and taking, self handling those needs personally.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily spill over into the cha-cha-cha quite as often. But
you remember those? Truly.
Remember those dance studios, Mark? You remember like things like Arthur Murray, and they would have the footsteps stenciled on the floor.
right.
That's our fight right there.
Right there. It's
We're on step 29.
Are we really good at foxtrot again?
Well, I really believe that the messy, magnificent journey of being human, this is what we're here to do. And we play things out and echoes and we do that with the people that we love the most, who make us feel safe, and then we work out all the stuff that happened with people we didn't feel safe with.
Yeah. So again, can I get my arms around this this expression or reflection of hubris and of bickering and go, it's me. That's what Barnett, I think, was saying earlier. And sometimes it is. It's me, the teenager, And now
I have
in a two-step.
I can be compassionate. I can be increasingly relational about it and less identified or triggered by it.
Big time.
That's the only thing I can do at this point, and may be absolutely enough.
Well, I think that the hard thing is on a personal level and on a national, global level is giving enough room for all of us to make our mistakes. But and this is where I think the 12-step program has such wisdom about making amends. It's all fine if we own when we make mistakes and repair. But whether it's nationally or personally, when we're self-indulgent and then we hurt others and just keep going.
Yeah.
And this is the difficult call in our personal lives, in our professional lives, in political lives. It's fine. We've had this forever of putting people on pedestals only to knock them down. But if we give people their humanity, then they have to own the responsibility of and be accountable for the mess that we all make.
Yeah. And the feeling of it and the awareness of it. Again, it's so easy to make it an out there. But the nature of this conversation, can I bring it back and see this reflected in last week's argument? Can I see this in a very personal way so that I'm not just projecting it out on this thing that seems unapproachable and unrelatable? Do I have a compassion that's got 2 feet in the mud, that's dealing with this? And so, again, language, we've talked many times on this show about, can I take it personally? In a mature way, not the sort of codependent way, but this evolved way of, how do I personalize this? Because otherwise, I can't really relate to it in a constructive way. If I keep putting it out there and call it big party politics, then I'm not in it. It's out there. It's something that happens, and I've dismissed it. Well, that's not going to get us anywhere. I want to personalize this so I can respond with a place of compassion that's hard fought in my life. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I agree with you. There is nothing if we don't. Everything that's universal is very personal, and we have to live in the lives we're in and meet people. And I think this is where we go back to, when we can be secure with our own authority of being, our hearts and minds will open to everything that's not us. Otherwise, we will push everything away out of fear and out of self-centeredness. And, I think we really do need to welcome difference there's an old Zen saying: when in an argument, never side with yourself.
That's a great line.
Isn't that great?
Oh my God, that is so good. Well, that's what's happening. I mean, that is exactly it.
And it's not that we shouldn't have our own conviction,
right?
But we're not going to move forward into experiencing any kind of community or unity if we insist that it's a seesaw, that my view can only exist if other views are down.
That's it. That's such a theme. It's such a theme. And again, if I can own that personally and feel it in my gut and go, ugh, it's the uckiness that I'd love to make party politics, but it's not. It's me. It's me, and that's a big old mirror shining back the part that I don't always want to deal with.
And to give ourselves encouragement and permission to keep changing, to change our. We have a little. I think we have a stuckness on defining character as consistency of values.
Yeah, no flip-flopping.
Yeah, no flip-flopping.
God forbid you should change your mind
or grow. We'll bring up something from 1974 in a political campaign and say, see, remember when you said that? Yeah, when I said that, I didn't know what I know now, and now I don't believe that. But that's not the way we play it.
So obviously we have groundedness in certain values. But again, Whitman is Whitman said in Song of Myself, if I contradict myself, I contradict myself. I contain multitudes.
That's it. That's one of Brian's favorites.
Yeah. My Sandy, our listeners are well acquainted with Sandy. She says to me, I am going to fight. If we argue, I'm going to fight. I am going to fight tooth and nail, and I'm also willing to change in a second.
Yeah. Because it's honoring the fight. It's honoring the process. Because
you honor yourself, and then you honor yourself, and you do honor when you're willing to be changed.
Yeah, that's
it.
So
you honor yourself, and you honor the relationship. So she'll fight tooth and nail, and then in a second she'll be willing to surrender her point of view. Not always.
That's why we love her.
Well, one of the most honoring things I think we can do with my wife Susan, or whether it's these people arguing endlessly in Washington, is to turn and say, even though I know you so well, who are you now? I know what you thought yesterday, but what happened between now and yesterday, and what do you think now, and how do you put all of the opinions you've had for years into a new synthesized whole? We don't give anybody any space to synthesize or emerge.
Yeah, there's a risk in the uncharted territory, but it's a beautiful risk. Otherwise, it's a rerun. Otherwise, it's a repeat. And frankly, that gets boring in my own life and in everything I see around me. Hey, listen, before we let you go, because we are coming up to the end of the segment, I want to honor you for the beautiful gift of your words, because Barnett is what he mentioned earlier, your books, and I love the Facebook posts because I read your stuff all the time. And I just want to honor you for just your ability to put things in words in such a beautiful, heartfelt, meaningful way. So I want to say that before we end. And
thank you.
I also want to give folks the opportunity to tap into more of this. So would you mind telling folks where they can find?
Yeah, there's two websites that really feature my work. One is marknepo.com, and the other is 3intentions, all one word, .com. And all of my work and my teaching, speaking schedules are up there as well.
Great. And we want to, when you're in the LA area, get you in studio. So
that would be the fourth intention.
It's our first intention, at least now. So hold us in that consciousness, because you're always invited back, but we'd love to have you in the studio if you're around.
Thank you both. It's great to be with you.
All right. And for those of you listening, stay tuned, because we'll be right back to wrap up after these messages.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
We are back. Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness.
You were ready to come back.
I was so fired up. I came back
10 seconds before you were.
It would be the first time I came back a little too fast.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm back.
Ta-da!
So,
the glaring indignity and the whole process of getting real with it so that we can own it. Man, that was fantastic. I love his language. Like, he really is a beautiful writer. Like, wow, what a gift.
He's a poet.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And so he is definitely firing on a few extra cylinders when it comes to that. And he's looking at the world through different kinds of lenses. And thank God that we have our poets, that we have Mark Nepo, to translate their own experience in ways that make us have maybe a deeper, keener insight into our own experience. Take it we take our own lives a little less for granted when it's mirrored up against somebody who has the ability to see and express the wonder in things.
Yeah, the deeper, because it's always this, the deepening. How deep. I love that, the deepness of it. So the depth of the whole experience, the ability to hold it all in a larger context and see it for. See the way I hold it is what he said. I love the first thing when we brought him on. He said, the way I hold this. So again, it's an awareness that can hold it, which, that's it. Can I pull it in such a way where I can hold it, where I'm not pushing it away, I'm not shoving it, I'm not fixing it, I'm not, that can I hold it? Because that's what's up right now. That's what's up.
We have this thought form. We live inside this kind of racetrack, goes round and round and round and round, of figuring things out and strategizing and figuring things out and negotiating things. And then, we alluded a little earlier to there's the experience of beauty and poetry and things that just seem to resonate inside of us in ways that are beyond our logic, and just something moves in the heart. And likewise, at the other polarity of things, great adversity and violence. I'm not an advocate for it, don't misunderstand me, but underneath all of that horror, we once did a show about battlefield poets. There is people's, they cut through the stuff of things to what really matters. You connect with it from the loss of love, the horrific circumstances in which love is ripped from us. And then we realize what is beautiful and what is true. And if we don't accept it.
And the wisdom that comes through. So the piece about battlefield poets, which was so beautiful, that you brought up, is these are often people writing these beautiful letters back to their wives or to their mother or whatever, expressing themselves from a place that... where do they get that information? Like, in other words, they may have a 6th grade education, let's say.
Because it's not cognitive.
Yes.
It's a being in touch with something that is beyond time, that is timeless, that is outside of that racetrack I referred to earlier that goes round and round, but that holds it. This soulful place.
Yeah, that's the deepening I think I was talking about, the deepening. We had Jim Shannon on last week, and, one of the things, and this is referencing something, not necessarily he said on the show, but we talked about it a bit, but I heard him talking one time about Vietnam, about going to Vietnam, and the way that he had to choose to relate to it because of the insanity of it, because of all that. And the relationship with nature and how he became really attuned to nature, because initially it was for his own survival, right? Because he's there with snakes and vermin and 3 inches of water at all time and sleeping in that and people,
lead flying
and people shooting at him. And so he had to relate to nature differently. Again, it's so when we turn up the volume on the insanity, there's not prescribing that, like, let's go turn up the volume. But in life, things can get really crazy. And there's a opportunity in that to deepen, to get underneath it in a way where we go, okay, there's something really important in this experience that I can tap into. And then we're changed by it.
If we're looking for it. And
well, that's true.
If we have the support to be gently guided in that direction.
Yeah.
Pulled into the experience, into the body. Otherwise we float up into the head, into this thinking. It gets shrill, it gets panicked.
Yeah.
We go faster and faster around the race course. When the opportunity is to engage something, the mystery that is larger than that race course.
Yeah.
Wherein answers and solutions and antidotes to crisis exist.
Yeah. And for Jim Shannon, it happened in the face of war. For so many battlefield poets, something deep came out in them that lived on beyond them, that we can all relate to and go, wow, that's profound. I want a piece of that. And for Mark Nepo, it's the cancer, that he faced his own mortality. And there was this moment in time where he was severe, inexplicably, I don't know what the word is, but he's changed forever. Whatever the good word is to say, changed forever.
Forever.
In a really profound way.
That's one word. It's changed forever is one word. Changeforever.com.
.com, that's right. So I don't know. It's going to be, it's really interesting to look at this battle, this war that's within us as a culture that has been raging for a long time. And now it's hit a fever pitch, and the battlefield is defined, and I hope some depth can come out of it.
And again, I thread back to it's a personal process. It's very easy for us all, for me, for all of us to make it about what's going on out there, and it is certainly going on out there. It is also going on inside here, and. The whole idea of respect, there's not a lot of respect being modeled out there, but to respect means to look back. To look back, and to look back first at self. When I respect myself, I acknowledge all of those aspects, all of those energies and beliefs that are at play inside of me, and I don't have to annihilate them as is being played out right now as this teeter-totter. I've got to annihilate you. You're up. You're down. We don't have to annihilate that within us, but we have to know that it's there and make peace with it.
Yeah,
and meet its needs.
One of the other things that's a thread of this whole experience too, the upping of the ante. So I think of war and how crazy it can get. That whole nuclear age where, okay, how far are we willing to go? Well, we're willing to go far enough where we can push a button and literally blow everything up.
Well, if you
not
only have
you, but me
if
too.
we only have two options.
Yeah.
If we're living in a place where there's no room for nuance, there's no room for the mystery that comes between. If it's only I'm right or wrong, absolutes and guarantees, left and right, if there's only two options, then the rapidity with which those options are presented and with which we identify with those options, it gets up-leveled and up-leveled until it goes even the pretense of civility goes out the window. And at some point, if there's only two options, then the unthinkable suddenly becomes thinkable. We can close down the government.
That's right.
Or we can annihilate. We resort to the unthinkable because that we don't have any other option.
Total annihilation.
If that only happens if you're stuck going around the racetrack.
Yeah, it becomes a very desperate situation.
There's no room for anything else except desperate. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Have we heard that?
Right.
Where does that come from? That doesn't come from a mystic.
No, it does not. It does not come from a mystic.
Those are the ruminations of people of thinking,
a desperate consciousness.
Of desperate consciousness.
Yeah, big time. And out of that, leaders emerge. And there is such an opportunity right now for some leadership. And I don't think it's leadership that is sort of, we look to the leader, maybe the president or the speaker or the this or the that. I mean leadership emerging, a voice of clarity. I don't know what it's going to be. Sometimes, again, it's an event. Something happens where...
Well, we have some.
Right.
We just had one on. We have some poets. We have some artists.
No, that's right.
We have some thinkers. And
yes.
The artistry does not
yes.
necessarily... This is the actual true role of artists. We have shoehorned them into a consensus belief that artists are poets or painters or they run circuses. But real artistry is the ability to go to the edge of what is known and to reach out beyond it and catch a glimpse of something and then pull it back for the people.
Yeah.
And something that enriches the lives of people in a way that puts them in touch with what is beautiful, i.e. what is beyond time, i.e. what is outside of the racetrack. And from there, they have a connection to more of who they really are.
It's interesting, too, how often it's backed up against war. It's backed up against crisis.
It doesn't have to be. But
no, I understand it doesn't have to be. I'm just saying how often it is.
If you're in that loop around and around and around and around, and you're not going for beauty, and you don't respond to beauty, then unfortunately there are no other options for the truth to emerge.
Yeah, well, it is the gold, the pressure that forms something, the alchemy of turning up the volume on the insanity, is it invites a new level of clarity. And that's what cuts in there.
The diamond makes the diamond.
It's the diamond.
And this is why you and I have said this before on this show, and sometimes we get a little pushback, that what is the purpose of life? Well, I wouldn't presume to know what the purpose of life is, but certainly for me, one of the primary purposes of life is to learn how to consciously have fun.
Yeah.
And that seems immediately intellectually dubious and spiritually dubious to some. But if you don't have fun, if you don't respond to what is beautiful, if you don't develop a relationship with what is beautiful and an intimacy with it and encourage it and foster it, then what happens is we trail back to this black and white, right or wrong thing, which is the Petri dish of pain,
Big
of
time.
struggle,
Big time.
of the tough way to learn.
Which is another way to learn. I was just going to say that. So, look, we've got a couple choices here. You can go with the hurt and the struggle and feel that, which I recommend. If it's up for you, feel it, because that'll
Well, you don't
transform.
really recommend it, but I know what you mean.
I don't know. Listen, I don't recommend to create it in order to feel.
Yeah,
so
but
there's
to respond to it in a way that elevates.
That's it, because there is the pattern of drama making in order to have enliven, right? So this, going back to the couples fight, there are the whole makeup sex routine. Let's fight so that we can get impassioned and invigorated and break the malaise of our day-to-day existence, which we've got no heart and soul in because we've succumbed to some kind of survival, pattern. That people do. I don't recommend that. Why don't you have an enlivened life, and then you can show up and you don't need to have these breakdowns? That would be the choice I would choose to make in my life, that there's enough juice, that both my wife and I are doing things. We're enough individual, have enough interests, have enough passions, have enough whatever to keep life spicy without having to set up the breakdowns.
Me too. I'd say me too, my hands up. And yet at the same time, in the macro of things, there's clearly a breakdown, and I own it. So I got that. I have a handle. As I have a handle on one piece,
yeah.
The next reveals itself. The limit of my capacity to respond from my own integrity, my own integrated aspects of self, my own collected consciousness. I max out on that, and I can see the edge. And the edge then, increasingly, is one of fun and beauty,
Yep.
A chaos that is gorgeous.
Yep.
And the flip side of it is one where I'm reactive to it. I don't want to deal with it. I want to push it away. That chaos becomes very scary.
It's interesting because you and I are both really busy in our lives right now, and we're about to take a break to go play with friends, right? We're going out this weekend with a bunch of great folks. And it's interesting because I was thinking earlier when we were hanging out, I'm like, everything's up right now. I almost want to get emotional right now.
Go ahead, do it.
No, it's okay.
It's great for ratings.
It is. And
Freeman cried.
the choice,
KVTA.
the best choice I can think of right now is to go play. The best choice I can think of is, I have a beautiful gift of staying with Gabrielle, who's a dear friend, versus at the hotel, which would be fun too. But that's just a gift, and I'm so looking forward to that. So the response sometimes when things get crazy and hectic and whatever is just to play. We're going to play, and I know there'll be some resolution out of that. So again, it's another empowered response. Cry would be appropriate
it's
too.
It's not a denial. I mean, it's a very different thing to deny life by going off and playing. But that's not at all what you're talking about.
No, God,
you
no.
are embracing you are embracing the chaos and stirring into those frequencies an energy of play in order to uplift the whole thing.
Yeah, it's not an escape.
It's an empowered response.
Yeah. Hey, we are empowered, but we're also...
But we got to get out of here.
So for those of you listening, we just want to encourage you to keep coming back. We want to encourage you to meet us in all the places we love to be met: YouTube, Facebook, comments. Stay in this conversation. We love having you. And thanks for listening.